In this episode, we are going to cover German breakfast words. So, important words that you need around the breakfast. So, let's get started right away. When you book a hotel in Vienna, usually you will have breakfast included, and that will almost always be a breakfast buffet. The first obvious word is breakfast, and that is Frühstück. Das Frühstück. Literally, that means the early piece. So, different type of logic to English where it's like to break the fast. So, it's the early piece. Good. Das Frühstück. So, when you're in a hotel in any city in the German-speaking area, almost always you will have breakfast buffet. So breakfast is usually included, and then it's in the form of a breakfast buffet, and that's called Frühstücksbuffet. Das Frühstücksbuffet. That's one word. German makes one words very often by combining two words into one. So here we combine das Frühstück and das Buffet. I mean, I don't have to explain that. I think it's the same in English, the buffet. And it's das Frühstücksbuffet. Then probably for many people, the most important part for breakfast is in English, the egg, das Ei. Or eggs, Eier. Scrambled eggs are Eierspeise. Die Eierspeise. Scrambled eggs, die Eierspeise. And an omelette is das Omelette. Then what do we eat with our eggs? So a few more things. Vegetables are das Gemüse. Now, in German, das Gemüse is uncountable. So you cannot say one vegetable, two vegetables. In German, this is simply uncountable. So there is no singular or plural of that. This is das Gemüse. And these are very typical ones that you would find at breakfast buffets maybe. So let's take two of those. The tomato is die Tomate. Die Tomate. And then if you want some special flavor, there is an Austrian word for tomato. And this is a side thing that I'm doing. I'm very much an advocate of Austrian culture. Not just German general, but also Austrian and Viennese. And so when you're later advanced and you can speak German, you can also learn to speak and understand Austrian German. Anyway, so one word that we use for tomato, and unfortunately even some of our young people maybe don't know it anymore, is der Paradeiser. Der Paradeiser. Maybe you hear a little bit. It has the word paradise in it. And that's because at some point it was the idea that this is a paradise apple or something like that. So, der Paradeiser. And then the cucumber is die Gurke. Die Gurke. So you can say die Gurke if you can. But you don't have to say die Gurke. If you have troubles with this R in there, don't worry. At least people in Austria, in northern, like the more northern up you go, maybe the more they will actually say that. But in Austria, most people in everyday German will just say die Gurke. Die Gurke, meaning we won't roll the R there. It's kind of like an A, die Gurke. Quick break here. So if you're new here, Better German is a podcast and it's a learning ecosystem. We have courses, group sessions, one-on-one resources, everything you actually need to speak German, not just study it. And if you're wondering where you fit in, do you actually know what your real German level is? Not what certificate you have, not what you think, but where you actually stand today. I've built a short placement test that tells you exactly that. And here's the difference. I personally look at every result and I'll send you a real answer. Not an automated email. Me actually looking at your German. It's at bettergerman.info/test and it's also in the show notes. Takes about 10 minutes. Back to the episode. Good. And then we have to drink something for breakfast, right? So let's take up the drinks. Der Kaffee. So coffee, of course, is der Kaffee. Der Kaffee. Then tea would be der Tee. Der Tee. And then water is Wasser. Or a glass of water would be ein Glas Wasser. Something that is very typical. I don't think I liked it very much. I don't drink it anymore because it has too much sugar in it. Even real orange juice. Anyway, orange juice is der Orangensaft. Der Orangensaft. Okay, and then some cereals. That's something that many hotels will also have. So muesli, I don't actually know if that even is a usual thing. So one of the most usual cereals is muesli. And I think it's muesli in English too. So that's muesli. Then, of course, bread is das Brot. So bread is very different, I think, in Austria and Germany and Switzerland too, than in the rest of the world. Even in France, they have France's great white bread, but that's pretty much it. And bread is very different, and it is very usual to get even sourdough bread in a hotel or in any bakery. So we have dark bread, and this is not this fluffy, soft thing that I've known from America. It's relatively hard and very aromatic, but it doesn't get hard, like real hard, as easy. So it's different. You have to try it. You have to taste it. You'll either like it or not. I remember an American coming to visit many years ago, and she was here for the first time. She had just arrived, and we were sitting down and basically just eating a cold supper or dinner that very often consists of bread and just things you put on, ham and sausage and butter and things like that. Very typical thing would be butter and ham, and even for many people, I don't do it, but butter and cheese. I think cheese is enough, but anyway. And some vegetables with it and so on. So what you have to do first is you have to cut the bread because the bread is coming in one piece. And I didn't realize at that time, to be honest. I mean, actually, I did realize, but I hadn't fully, I had already been into the US, but I hadn't thought about it, that what Americans know as bread is usually like cut up in a plastic bag. And it doesn't go stale for like ever. Our bread, you go to the bakery or to the supermarket, actually, these days mostly, and still it's baked fresh. Sometimes they pre-bake it and then it's finished, but still it's freshly baked. It's sold only on the same day that it is baked. And then you have to eat it within 2 or 3 days. If you put it in a plastic bag, usually a combination of a paper and plastic bag, it will be okay on the next day or 2 days after, something like that. But it's best when it is fresh. If it's white bread, it goes stale faster. And white bread is like really white. And then dark bread will probably be good for several days. So that's just a little cultural thing here. So let's go through all of the words that I mentioned now. I hope I don't forget any. So dark bread is dunkles Brot, or we call it Schwarzbrot. Schwarzbrot, das Schwarzbrot. Schwarz, you probably know, is black. So literally it's black bread. Of course, it's not really black. Even though there is one type of very, very, very dark bread that is almost black, it's called Pumpernickel, but it's not something that is a very typical Austrian thing. Anyway, das Schwarzbrot. And then the white bread, or light bread, das Weißbrot. So there is a lot of different types of Weißbrot. Ham, der Schinken, and sausage, die Wurst. Now you maybe think of sausage like sausages. Yes, we also have those. They can happen on a breakfast buffet, but then it would be Würstchen. Literally, it's little sausages. Würstchen. If you add chen to the end of a word, it means it's a small thing. So das Würstchen is one small sausage. Die Würstchen is several small sausages. Good. But we also have sausage that is cut up. So these are big chunks, and then they're cut up in small slices. And then we just call it sausage, die Wurst, like salami and stuff like that. You have that too. Good. And then I have to admit it's a little wrong, the picture on the cover for this episode, but I didn't want to go and correct it again. Anyway, we have a big variety of small breads, like small pieces of bread. There is probably 50 or 100 different ones. I'm just going to cover two that are super, super frequent in Austria. So one is a little roll of white bread, and we call it die Semmel. Die Semmel. It's white bread. It's not super healthy for you, but it's very good. It's crunchy. You should try it. Just don't eat it all the time. But we eat Semmel like also as a snack. So Semmeln are a very traditional Austrian food that you can get everywhere. And we eat it with sausage. Also, that's a typical lunch snack. And we eat it for breakfast with butter and jam. So butter is die Butter. Die Butter. And jam is die Marmelade. Die Marmelade. By the way, because I've mentioned it, there's going to be another episode that's going to be episode 73. This episode is 63. So the episode 73 is going to be a word list about snacks. And there you will have the Semmel again, okay? I promised you one other type of small bread. It's kind of like a darker bread, not white. And it is like in a sort of a stick version with pointy endings. And you hear it in the title of the thing. It's called Der Kornspitz. So Korn is a word for basically a cereal. I think it's mostly wheat. And then der Kornspitz. Spitz means that something is pointed. So it's made out of cereal and it's pointed. Der Kornspitz. And it's dark bread. So these are the two typical ones. Before I go over one more, all of the words that we've covered in this episode, I want to also tell you this word list is also part of the Get Talking course. So when you're doing the Get Talking course, which is my beginner's course, the course which will get you to either from never having spoken German to where you are able to speak. I could call it an A2 course, and it will get you to a good level of A2 as far as understanding and speaking is concerned. I'm not calling it an A2 course because A2 courses traditionally are very focused on writing and reading more than on speaking. I'm not covering everything about writing in there, but I'm covering the speaking more because I think it is more important. But it is basically an A2 course. If you want to take an actual A2 exam, then I have a little add-on at the end of the course to prepare you for that. So this list and more of these words are also covered in that course. Okay, good. Now, as a next step, what we're going to do is, one more time, we're just going to go through the words without any chit-chat in between. All right. So definitely repeat after me. If you haven't already, then repeat after me now, okay? Breakfast. Das Frühstück. Das Frühstück. Breakfast Buffet. Das Frühstücksbuffet. Das Frühstücksbuffet. Das Frühstücksbuffet. The Buffet. Das Buffet. Das Buffet. Egg. Das Ei. Das Ei. Eggs. Eier. Eier. Scrambled eggs. Die Eierspeis. Die Eierspeise. Now that's a very Austrian word, and I didn't say that before, but anyway, the German word is Rührei. That's literally scrambled eggs. It's actually scrambled egg, but anyway. Das Rührei. Das Rührei. Omelette. Das Omelett. Das Omelett. Vegetables. Das Gemüse. Das Gemüse. Tomato. Die Tomate. Die Tomate. Or der Paradeiser. Der Paradeiser. Cucumber. Die Gurke. Die Gurke. Or sometimes just die Gurke. Die Gurke. Coffee. Der Kaffee. Der Kaffee. Tea. Der Tee. Der Tee. Water. Wasser. Das Wasser. Das Wasser. A glass of water. Ein Glas Wasser. Ein Glas Wasser. Orange juice. Der Orangensaft. Der Orangensaft. Müsli. Das Müsli. I'm just gonna say it in German. Das Müsli. Then bread. Das Brot. Das Brot. Dark bread. Dunkles Brot. Dunkles Brot. Or Schwarzbrot. Das Schwarzbrot. And then white bread. Das Weißbrot. Das Weißbrot. Just to complete the logic, you can also say helles Brot. That's kind of like light bread. Helles Brot. And white bread is das Weißbrot. Okay. Ham. Der Schinken. Der Schinken. Sausage. Die Wurst. Die Wurst. Die Wurst. By the way, I think some person even accused me at some point of having a bad German pronunciation. So I'm trying in my podcast, but also in my courses or any teaching, I'm trying to get you to understand people that speak German. So I'm always trying to, when I say the words, I could say them super clearly in a way that German is in theory, and you may hear it like that in theater or something like that, but it is not day-to-day German. And I'm trying to find a middle. I'm trying to speak very properly. I can do that. That's no problem. But I'm also not trying to give you a theory and a theoretical pronunciation that you will never actually hear. I'm trying as good as I can to prepare you just a little bit on how it is actually going to be said when you hear it, because it is usually very fast. And I remember when I learned English as a second language, my native language is German, and I was not prepared to hear native speakers speak at all. And I didn't understand them. I'm trying to prepare you for that. So I'm trying to give you the pronunciation that is close to how I would actually say it in a day-to-day life. Just thought I'd mention. That's why I sometimes say it in two different ways, like die Wurst, which is, in a theoretical way, a very correct way to say that, but not very many people will actually say die Wurst. They will say, for example, that's what I would say if I talk to someone, I would say die Wurst. There could be even more slang ways of saying it, and I'm not going into those. So, die Wurst. And then a small sausage, that would be das Würstchen. Das Würstchen. Or, because they're so small, you often eat more than one, so you would say die Würstchen. Die Würstchen. And then we have a roll, a very general word for a small piece of bread. Das Brötchen. Das Brötchen. This is a word, however, that we wouldn't use in Vienna or in Austria very much, but they will probably understand it. Then we have a little white roll. That's a very typical Austrian and Southern German one. Die Semmel. Die Semmel. And then we have der Kornspitz. That was the dark pointed one. Der Kornspitz. Okay, so these were the words. Go back and repeat them over and over until you can say them easily. So if you really want to get the most out of this, you can go back and repeat them until it is very easy for you to say these words. And then practice them. There is a few ways how you can practice them. I want to point out the next episode, which is episode 64, and it's called What Real Practice in Language Actually Looks Like. And I'm going over like the real way how I am telling my students to practice words, in order to make sure that you will actually retain them and you will also be able to produce them. Meaning when you actually come to Vienna or to some place where they speak German in a year, you will actually be able to say these words. So if you're interested in that, then please tune in. Next episode, episode 64, we're back to a weekly schedule. For some time, I don't know if you have been following me already, then maybe you noticed I haven't published a new episode every week because I was busy actually with starting to get talking course that I mentioned before. But now I'm back to a weekly schedule and I'm determined to keep that. Before you go, if you've been listening for a while and you're thinking, okay, I actually want to do something about my German, here is where to start. Go to bettergerman.info/test and take the placement test. It's short, it's free, and I'll personally look at what you sent me and tell you exactly where you stand and what makes sense for you next. Maybe that's one of my courses. Maybe it's something else entirely. I'll tell you honestly. Better German isn't just a podcast. It's a whole learning ecosystem. Courses, group sessions, one-on-one lessons, mini resources, but all starts with you knowing where you actually stand. And if you're enjoying the podcast, share it with someone who's trying to learn German. That's the best thing you can do for me and maybe for them too. The link is in the show notes, and see you in the next episode.